Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Live Life Big podcast. I'm Ben Glass, local attorney and entrepreneur, dad to 9. And this podcast, I have fun because I get to interview really interesting people here in Northern Virginia. Today, very special guest. We've been riffing for an hour before we started this. My friend Suzy Willemssen. Suzy is a long-time, very popular youth and high school softball coach here in the area. She's really involved at a high level, very successful, but we're going to talk about like what success means. But I wanted to get Suzy in here because I'm very interested in sort of the whole youth sports thing, the parents in youth sports, referees and umpires and stuff like that. And we'll talk a little bit about the good kids who want to like go into college and what that's all like. So we'll see where this goes because
Gotcha.
In the pre-roll up we went everywhere, and it's good. So thanks for carving out some time to be here.
It's an honor, it truly is. Thank you.
And now a longtime coach at Lee High School, but now starting your second season, I think,
Yes.
at O'Connell.
Correct.
O'Connell in Arlington, obviously a very storied softball program, a lot of good sports at O'Connell. But let's just talk a little bit about you for a moment, because I know that you played 4 sports in high school.
Right.
You played softball at University of Iowa. Is
Correct,
that
yes.
right? So talk a little bit about kind of growing up, in particular, because a lot of kids, they're not playing 4 sports anymore. I played a bunch before I found soccer and sort of specialized in that. But what was it like for you? What did you play, and how did you end up softball?
Growing up, I was right there on the cusp of Title IX, so there really wasn't many sports for females. So I was actually the first female to play boys baseball in our community.
Oh, cool.
So a bunch of the neighbors, mostly boys, so my favorite...
It's like Little League, like under 12?
It
or?
was T-shirts. They
Okay.
called it T-shirts. So we didn't have Little League, so
Right.
it was down at the community park. They had a baseball program. Then we'd play against other parks in Waterloo,
Cool.
Iowa. So I don't know, I just loved sports. I just loved competing. So the Chicago Bears, Gale Sayers, I was Cubs, had baseball cards, all that stuff. I just loved to compete. So for me, again, not having a lot of places to do this stuff because they didn't have sports for females. You could swim, which I did. So playing on the T-shirts was like awesome. So I remember signing up, playing. All the boys knew that I had game. And I'll never forget, we were competing against another park, and I can hear a mom saying, "Hey, what's that girl doing out there?"
Awesome.
So
we've come a long ways.
Yeah, so I guess, and that's kind of been something, moving on later on, just kind of stuck with me, and a bit of that mentality. Well, I'll show you. I don't know, kind of doing things a little differently. Just that competitive fire. When I was so I played then slow pitch with the females because again we didn't have opportunities for my age, so that was kind of fun. So we'd go on tournaments and I'd be with the female adults, and that was great. And finally, my sophomore year, we got softball as a coach, as a sport, a school sport. But we didn't really have middle school. We had 7th, 8th, and 9th, so our high school started at 10th. So 7th, 8th, and 9th, they started introducing sports, so I was able to play basketball as well. And I was 6th player, so it was like 3-on-3. Yeah, so it was like you had 3 defensive players, so we would be on one half side of the court, then we would get the ball and pass.
I remember those days a little bit.
Yes, and then on the other side, so that just started as well. So that was great. Again, a joy for me was just on Saturday being able to go to the YMCA and be able to shoot baskets and being able to participate in that. So again, the first bit was the girls basketball, started introducing sports, and then softball my sophomore year in high school.
And then we're good enough to play intercollegiately at University of Iowa.
Yes, and so that was a AIAW where when Iowa first started. So it was kind of, so things just were kind of starting and getting rolling. So, and then playing the 4 sports in high school, it was like awesome. So it's like a mixed blessing with all the opportunities today for females. I don't know if I would be able to do that now. I just don't think there's any way. So we did volleyball, then I went to basketball, then track and softball for Iowa in high school is more in the summer. So that's another challenge in itself, and it still is.
Oh, but I'm sure that, or I would bet that, playing multiple sports really helped you to develop into the athlete. Because when you and I were in college, I would say that today's college players are much better athletes than certainly I was. We were good soccer players when I played at William & Mary. Not very athletic per se in terms of 12 months a year weight training and sort of the science of athletics that you're involved in a lot now. But I'll bet that helped you though. Just playing 12 months a year, different things, different coordinations, different muscle development, different coaches, right?
Totally. And as you were saying earlier, there's a lot of science now and people saying as far as having that multi-sport athlete and just the different experiences. So I was very lucky not to have that pressure to say, hey, you need to only specialize in this sport. So like I said, that's kind of the mixed blessing of the things, but it was, again, just a little more innocent back then.
It was innocent. I continue to referee, right, at the high school level, and I mean the players today are very, very good. They're very fast. I don't think I would have been able to play, right? And I was lucky. I played with a lot of good guys who were good players back in the day. How did you get interested in the coaching side of athletics?
It was my daughter.
Yep, that's how a lot of us get involved,
exactly.
right?
So signed her up to play softball. It was actually for Braddock Road, so it was the first year they were going to start a softball program. And they actually had 5-year-olds with 10-year-olds. So they didn't quite know that that's kind of a big spread.
Tough.
That's kind of tough. And so it was, so that first year, so she went and played, and I'm just, mom, just watching.
Softball mom.
Exactly. And then the second year, they realized that they needed to actually have different age groups. So Vanessa was on a team, and then I asked the coach if she wanted some help since I had played, and she said sure, and here we are.
Well, here we are is that's a big leap, right? So let's talk a little bit about, because you actually coach now in several realms,
yes.
Right? So you do private sort of coaching,
yes,
right? And Suzy lives in my neighborhood, and for years I've seen the batting cage that's on the side of the yard, which is cool. You work in the high school realm, and that's a special place. And you coach in the travel, and what I would even call it, I guess you probably call it too, the elite travel.
Right. Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about your organization, Glory Softball. Like, what is it? How did you move from softball mom who's volunteering to wow? Like, what is it you think that is kind of like the wow in your life that is taking you on this journey? Because it's pretty significant. I want people to pay attention to this.
Again, just starting with coaching with my daughter, getting into it and realizing that if she wanted to play travel ball or something of that nature, so she showed an interest, she wanted to start playing at a higher level, then an individual was going to start a travel team and asked if I would help, and I said, sure, I'd love to, so help start that from scratch. And you just go out and compete. So part of it was just the competitor in myself wanting to do the best. So, and I try to say be my best, not be the best.
Right.
Because when I say be the best, that's going against somebody else. My
and
best.
it's impossible, right?
Yeah.
It's almost impossible. I mean, there's only one of the best. But
and then I don't want to be.
I love that.
Yes.
Be my best.
Be my best.
Every day, be better than you were yesterday.
Because if it's be the best, then even my teammate, I'm trying to be better than you, and so that's part of what we try to strive also with the organization. Be your best and be the best friend, the best husband, wife, teammate, and work on yourself, and then you'll help somebody else become their best.
What I like about you, and I follow you on Twitter, and what's your Twitter handle, do you know?
Oh,
we'll put it up on the screen too.
It's just the name. Yeah, it's at Suzy Willemssen.
Well, what I like about you is that you start with the person, right? Because you can't have, in my view, you can't have long-lasting athletic or business success or artistic, music, whatever it is, unless the person is fulfilled, is full, has a lot of things physically, mentally, spiritually, financially going on well, and you start there. I mean, that's so cool. So talk to us a little bit about, because Glory Softball is pretty big now.
Yes, it's pretty big. So started again an organization, and it was doing well, but I was again looking for another challenge, and so we had the Washington Glory was the professional women's league. So I remember going to their games. I mean, for a softball player, being able to go down the street at George Mason or Westfield High School and seeing our stars of the game, the Kat Ostermans, Monica Abbott, I mean, it was like heaven. And I remember watching and going, man, I would love to be a part of that. There was just something in Coach Carrie Deaver-Boyce. There was just something. And they ended wanting to start a travel organization or a component along with the professional. So they put an ad out for coaches, and I'm like,
it's written for me.
I'm going to apply. I'm going to apply. So I was blessed enough to be selected as their 16U developmental coach. Within that same year, the team was actually moved to Florida, which is now the Pride. So in that August, elected or honored to be selected to be their coach, but they moved that April. But they still had the training component. So was underneath, let's say, their banner, so to speak, but now the team has moved, and we did nice, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep this going, and I'm just going to be by myself, my one little 18U team, because I moved them up to 18U. That's a whole other story, because I knew kind of how things went. So anyway, so then starting that next August, had my one little team, just called it Glory Gold, and purpose-driven softball was our little
talk about
motto.
That. Purpose-driven softball.
Yeah, and so now it's 24, 25 teams within 4 different states.
What do you mean by that, purpose-driven softball?
That with we just aren't doing it to help get a college scholarship. Actually, what I tell people is, back to what you were saying before, creating just an awesome person that can play some pretty darn good softball as well. And so our purpose is, I love the John Gordon stuff, warrior spirit, servant's heart. So it's pouring into each other. And so the purpose, and then we're driven to be our best. And we get to do it through the sport. We just absolutely love softball. So softball is kind of the vehicle that we get to do all this incredible cool stuff.
That's so cool, because you're using something, sport, it could be art, it could be any number of different things, to develop real citizens, right? That no matter what happens as they move to college, some will play, most will not, move potentially to professional level, most will never taste, playing that. But that they have this foundation, and you and I were talking earlier about being curious, being forever learners, learning to overcome adversity, learning to take on challenges, team, individual, and it's so important. I mean, as kind of an outsider in the soccer world, in that I don't have anyone playing now. A couple of my kiddos, everyone played, and one of them played at a decently high level, but it's hard to see this kind of philosophy actually being taught and manifested in youth sports today. Maybe I'm just seeing all the bad stuff, right? I know a few coaches who, Bo Amato, who is a very popular soccer coach here and coached my son for a couple of years. He was just so big on personal responsibility, don't whine at referees. If the referee made a bad call, it's because you didn't get there faster and make it easy for the referee, right? And very sort of down to earth. Good coach, technically, philosophy, but he started at the individual and their own psyche, because he knows that most of these kids, we're not playing, right? You're not playing, I'm not playing, but we're still involved.
Right.
We're still involved. Talk to us a little bit about sort of today's, here's what I hear. So I get to sometimes mentor young families at our church, young moms and dads. And what they'll say to me is, oh my gosh, everything is so pressure packed. I have to get my kid a trainer and into travel this and travel that, when they're 6. And I say, maybe not. So talk to us today about sort of the high pressure Northern Virginia atmosphere of sports.
I think today, being honest, it's tough for our youth. I know everybody likes to jump on social media and blame that, but when we started, and one of the biggest things, as you said, it's giving them permission to fail. Through the struggle, that's where the growth happens. And that can be really a challenge now, though, because it's all done in the spotlight.
Yeah.
So everybody has a camera. Every game is being beamed via Facebook or Periscope, whatever it happens to be. Then it's even put on YouTube. And then if you have something really funny happen to you, then somebody makes that a GIF or a GIF. I told you we were joking. Half my team says GIF, Ham's a GIF. So anyway. And so
but it goes viral.
It goes viral. Yeah. And so it's all out there. So you say, hey, you're in a safe environment. Go for it. Fail. It's fine. That's the struggle. That's where growth happens. But it's out there for everybody to see. So that can be just a huge challenge. And then you get caught up with how many likes and who's looking at my thing and who's tweeting stuff out. And they just get caught up in a swirl. And we were talking about performance anxiety. Yeah. And I think it's a real thing out there. So it's trying to pull things back and trying to help them keep centered, trying to help the parents keep centered.
You must believe that this is possible to do.
Because
lots of people want to know, lots of moms and dads want to know how. What are the words, phrases, the mindset that you are using and teach to pull people back to center, right?
It's just creating that awareness and just, hey, putting the things out there and then helping the parent be that support. But as we were talking last night on the chat with the incomparable Sue Enquist, it's allowing them to own the game and allowing the player to take responsibility for what is going on. Because it's really for them. And so you hear the thing, hey, tell your child, I just love to watch you play. Mm-hmm. So things of that nature. When I have my parents meeting for high school, more so than travel ball, but I still do the same thing. But the first time with the high school, I tell the parent, release your child to the coach, but they have no idea the impact they can make if they say to their child, are you going to play?
Yeah.
Then what ends up happening if they're not going to play, or didn't they score points, or didn't they attain a certain standard of performance, then the child feels that love is conditional.
Right.
So I'll say, hey, parents, so let's say you are a Washington Nationals fan. You cannot miss a Nats game. You don't know a single person on the Nats team, but you've got the garb on there, you've got the schedule, everything is going to be done towards that. While your child has been practicing every day, giving him or herself to her teammates, and then you say to them, well, are you gonna play tonight? No, Mom, probably not. So you're probably gonna be just the bench. Well, then I'm not gonna come.
That's awful.
That is.
That's really awful.
But that is when then the child is being told, I value you for if you meet a standard of performance, rather than saying, gal, like, you have been pouring into your teammates.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you're on the field. You've committed yourself to something. I'm going to be there cheering your teammates on, cheering you on in whatever role it happens to be.
Or teaching that child life values, like how do I have a conversation with the coach? What could I do better?
Exactly.
Like what could I be working on? And which gets to another one of my hot spots is, that breakfast time conversation and that dinner time conversation with your family is really, really important. I think in many families that's kind of lost because we're all so busy.
Yes.
But what your kids hear from you, if it is backed by your behavior at games, right, is really, really critical in their development. So hats off for you for having that conversation. Do you think it's heard?
I believe so. But what I also would tell people is you just can't have a one-time event. Okay, that might be able to start the fire, but you have to continually feed it and fuel it. So I like to say drip, 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 drip.
Yeah.
So constant messages, like for me, anything I send out to the player, the parent gets, because I want the parent to know, to understand where I'm coming from and how they can help me. I know some coaches say, hey, parents, you're over here in a corner. I don't want to talk with you. I'm only going to give the information to little Suzy because it's her job, her responsibility. And I'm like, oh, coaches, I think you're missing out on a wonderful way to allow that parent to understand the culture and the things that you're trying to do and understand where you're
And to
coming
be able to
from.
reinforce it, right?
Totally,
100%,
exactly. So that's why everything I send to the player, the parent gets, and it all gets down to communication as well. Because where there's lack of communication, usually negativity gets in there.
Exactly. I think, so having a couple of my kiddos play in high school athletics and kind of knowing like what the coach is saying to the players and knowing that there are no secrets, right? This is the coach's methodology for selecting the team that will play or be on the field or the court or whatever. These are the conversations I, as coach, am having with the student athletes about improvement, mental toughness, winning, taking care of teammates, all of those things you talk about, is really, really important. I wish there was more people that would have these conversations.
They get everything.
Talk to us a little bit, because I have my other two hot spots, of course. We run our varsity soccer sportsmanship program. I don't know if you saw, but we've been running for 2 years, and at our high school referee meeting, we learned that 25% reduction in ejections over 2 years. Now, I don't know if we've had impact. I believe that we have, because we've started conversations.
Say you have. I was like, hey, we need to talk about softball, too. I need to get on that program with the softball. So I loved it, though. That was awesome what you're doing.
Yeah, and so I was at Lee a couple of years ago giving out money to either the boys or the girls, and
I was like, I know him.
Yeah,
I know him.
yeah. So those are fun conversations to have. I have no idea what the culture is like in high school or high-end travel, elite travel baseball. Is it toxic? Is it pretty good? Sometimes at the highest levels, like the parents get it, like they understand, and you probably get better umpires, right, to those games. What is it? What's it like out in your fields?
Well, softball, I think we have a challenge, unlike many other sports, due to the proximity of the spectators to the field. So you're right there. So even as a coach, I have to be mindful of what's going on. But the umpire's right there because everything, we're not down, sitting up in the stands and then the field's down there. So where you can kind of say stuff. So you're right there. So everything is heard. And it's a human being. I mean, that's somebody's father. That is somebody's brother. That is a person. And I really don't ever believe anybody's out there trying to make a mistake
I've used this
or
line.
mess up. I really don't think they woke up
That's
and
true.
said, you know what, I'm going to try to make this really miserable.
I've said that to kids. I didn't wake up this morning and go, hey, I have your school. I'm going to mess with you tonight, right?
Exactly. So it just gets back to being human and just being kind. Now, if there's an official and they're not hustling and trying to get in a position,
legitimate.
that's legitimate. That's
Absolutely.
a little different.
Yeah.
And then, there are some that, okay, they have like a little bit of an ego and they want to make sure they know the rules. And I know those, and I kind of laugh because I'll say something to them, to my girls, like, hey, we're going to get a little lecture here about the second inning. But that's totally different than just...
So true. I mean, across sports. That
and I'd say that for, and I talk to my umpires friends, and they know the coaches that do this. So it's like, that's just part of the game. But what is not part of the game is being mean and demeaning and cruel. I'm just sorry. There's no place for that. And we were playing a team last weekend, and the pitcher on the mound, if one of my girls struck out, she would go like this on the mound, like, bye-bye. And I'm like, wow. So there's a little funny story at the end when my player hit the home run to tie the game up. And anyway, so we go there, so it was bye-bye. But anyway, it comes back then to the leadership and to the coaches for what we allow to happen.
Because, like I said, everybody can see it,
Truly.
right?
Yeah, and so that's a true story. So I had a parent, and she was kind of getting on the umpire and her daughter. So I literally came out of the dugout. I didn't say a word. I sat down next to her in the stands. I did not say a word. And then it was about 5 seconds. She goes, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
And I just turned to her and I said, good. And got back up and walked in. Because I don't tolerate that. I don't. So, but that has to come from me. So my players and my parents, that's not how we roll.
It has to be a top-down culture. And I think, what I would like more players and parents to know is that most of us who are in that umpire-referee role are doing it because we actually like having the best seat in the house.
Yes.
It's not because we're out there to impose ourselves in the game. We like the game. I like the physical and the mental challenge, the psychological challenge of managing a whole bunch of, nothing's better for me than a rival game, a rival high school game in Northern Virginia.
It just gets
absolutely,
with
with folks in the stands. Yeah.
Well, that would be interesting so have you seen a difference in the way people are interacting with you over the years?
I think, well, so I think that the more, so if you're an experienced referee with a good attitude, you deal with this stuff. Like, I shut it down quickly, but I'm not a jerk.
Yes.
Like, Suzy, we're not doing that today. We're not doing that today. Respect the game, that sort of stuff. I think that the issue is as we try to develop young referees, it's really hard. It's really hard to keep them past their first 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So youngsters who we would like to, the kiddo who isn't going to play in college, but who really was a good athlete in high school, loves the game. Coaching is a way to stay in. Refereeing, umpiring is a way to stay in. I'm on a lot of referee boards, so we see a lot of video. Like, if you see a video on TV of some bad incident, I probably have seen it a week earlier. Like the day that it happened, we're watching that stuff. And so yeah, I mean, I sat in the stands at Robinson watching my son play, and there were some really bad dads in that stand, I thought. And that was one of the reasons I started the program, because I'm like, what could we do to at least get people to pay attention, put our money where our mouth is, right? Because we've probably, I think, awarded over $10,000 in sportsmanship money, and to have this conversation going. And I know that the conversation is happening. The team may not be totally successful. Some teams, Suzy, I get these emails, towards the middle or the second half of the season when the ambient temperature is rising, it becomes more difficult, right? And they're anguishing, like, oh, my player, we were so close. But at least a conversation is taking part. And to the extent I can get in front of parents at these banquets or preseason and go, hey, it's guys like me who are out there, right? And we're just out there because we're blessed to not have to work in an office all day long and all night long. We like to get out in the field and to run around. Let me ask you this. Talk to us a little bit about that student athlete who may be on a path, may be able to play in college. I think there's probably a lot of mythology about this. I'll tell you that in the soccer world, you can tell me if this is true in your world. In the soccer world, when a kiddo is probably a junior and they're playing on a team that thinks they're really good, where the parents are told that every single tournament that the team goes to is like the most important tournament in the whole world, and there's going to be tons of college coaches out there, and so we got to go. We got to pack up and go.
Right.
I don't know if that happens in your world. The college coaches that I've spoken to tell me a different story. Like, that's not, like, they select players or players get noticed because someone they know, someone that college coach knows, says, maybe you ought to look at Billy, right? Someone that they respect. So what do you say, speaking both to parents and to student athletes who think, I might be able to go and play in college?
First of all, I really encourage that family, the player, and the parents to take ownership of their recruiting journey.
Yeah.
To find out as much information and to really be the person driving it and not rely on a coach, travel ball coach, a third party. Like, really own it and then have those conversations. They recently have changed the recruiting procedures in college where the college coach cannot have a conversation with that player, third party, anybody till September 1st of that player's junior year.
Right.
So there's been a little bit of kind of a feeling out, shaking up period because players were committing at age 12.
I see this.
Yeah,
I'm pleased to announce I'll be continuing my youth sport, my journey at so-and-so college, and I'm 12.
Yes.
Okay,
so,
that's weird.
So, but now that's also created a little bit of level of anxiety because now it's like blackout period until then.
Yeah.
So I can't even really talk to them. So we can tell the college coaches, we can give them information and things about players, but really want that parent player to go to like camps and things, but it can be of a struggle because there's multiple camps, and is it just a money maker? And so it gets down to like anything, creating relationships. And for like a coach to have that integrity, so like if I say something to one of my college coach friends, they know I'm just not blowing smoke, just trying to do stuff. And I tell the players, like, I'm going to say what is truthful about you, because that's going to help everybody.
Because if they are able to play at that next level, you want them to be in an environment that would be win-win. Like, because there's a lot of different places to go play high level sports.
That's
college,
exactly right. And the only way that player is going to know that is by putting themselves and really going out there and doing it. I mean, I might get some suggestions because, like, hey, I know this coach, go check here.
Right.
And of course, we're going to help guide them, but then they really, really own it. And I find that that's the absolute best way. And with the student athletes that I'm doing stuff with. Also, as you're like looking at, let's say, the roster and things, do it on the other side of making yourself prepared as far as like with time management.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the things that you need to do. So if you decide to play in college,
it's a different level.
You are going to be prepared to do that.
Yeah.
And time management is one of the hugest
So
things.
tens of thousands of student athletes are able to do this every single year in college at all different levels. So that means you can do it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Success leaves breadcrumbs and secrets. So that's important. I think one of the best lines I heard in the college soccer recruiting world from a coach was, at the end of the day, pick a school that if you went and you got injured on your first day and you could never play, you would still like the school, and you would still, because, again, we're forming a base for the rest of your life.
Right, yeah.
So, O'Connell, so the spring, we're recording this in February of 2020, so.
Tryouts are the 20th, so it's the 20th for the private school, yes.
State championship last year.
Yes.
Again, you took over a storied program, so as you said, there was no place to go but down.
Yeah, that was what I said, no place to go but down. Oh gosh, yes.
Well, so I know that you're looking forward to it. Let me just ask you this, and we'll close with this. So you're very busy, mom, coach here, motivator. how do you, like, what is your secret for staying whole and balanced?
Probably because I'm not. I'm just very blessed to be able to do what I love. And the only reason that's to happen is because of the people around me.
Right.
It's truly that. My husband is phenomenal, allowing me to go to different seminars. I am extremely curious, so to go explore different things. And he has just been there since day one, allowing me to do that. Same for my family. Like we were talking before, your vibe attracts your tribe. So I've just, from my high school assistants that have been with me for 9 and 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, they came with me from Lee.
Didn't know that.
Yeah,
oh,
they
cool.
did. They came, so
Cool.
they were with me at Lee for 9 to 8 years, and then came with me to O'Connell from the incredible coaches I have in the travel ball and Glory softball, the families. So many people pour into me. So I'm just truly blessed, and they keep me centered. I don't like yes people, so they keep me
That's awesome.
on task.
That's
and
awesome.
where I need to be. So, but if I try to be balanced, I
Balance
don't even
is,
know what that
it's
is.
an overused word, right? I
Yeah.
think the better word is focus. So when we're in this realm, we're focused here. We're not
Right.
distracted. When we're in the mom to the family realm, we're focused here. When we're into the spouse realm, focused here. And so that really is, as I talk to a lot of high performers, high achievers, you're right, there is no balance, but there is focus, and there is,
Yes.
and sometimes you're way over here, and there's a time and a place for everything, and so you're spending a lot of time and resources in one realm of your life.
Right.
But then remembering that when we get past that season or that time of our life, whatever, we go back over here, right, to family, to spouse, to whatever else, being curious. I love the fact that you, as accomplished as you are, you're always like looking for the next clinic, the next idea. I spoke to John Daly, who's a longtime women's soccer coach at Wayne Mary, and I was a few years ago, and I'm like, what is it? He goes, every day I learn something, right? I'm always, again, very successful college coach, but there's always something new that someone is working on that you can go, oh, that's a cool idea. Let's bring it over here. And a lot of times, in my world, we'll hear a cool idea in a different type of business. And we'll say, how can we bring it to law? You might hear a cool technique and, training swimmers, okay, and getting a swim team. How can I bring that over into softball?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's the fun part. And kind of going back to the beginning, it's the people, it's the relationships, and helping the players just become a better person first, person over player, and allow them to be themselves, to be authentic. And as you were saying before, that has to, with the leadership, we have to model our talk and do what we say, and do it with integrity, and being that they can trust you.
It is fun. Ray Dallas wrote in Principles, the ultimate is combining your work and your passion and doing it with people that you like.
There's nothing better.
There's nothing better. Suzy Willemssen,
Oh
thanks
my
for
gosh,
coming on the
thank
show.
you.
We blew through our time. Good luck this year. I'll be following O'Connell girls softball
Yeah, thank you
and
very
everything
much.
else that you do.
This was an honor
All
and
right.
a blessing.
It was fun.
Okay.
It was very fun.
All right.
Thank you.